copyright. This is a video of a near-death encounter, and the person whose video it is asked to spread the video. That's why I'm bringing it out. And it's relating to the information. I'm going to let it speak for itself. Fair use copyright, fair use copyright. Check this out.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and I never thought I would experience something that would change my life forever. But here I am, writing this to you because I feel like I have to share what happened to me. I died. I crossed over, and what I saw on the other side was something I never expected. I met Jesus, and he showed me something about black people that completely shocked me. It was not just a vision, it was a revelation. I am still trying to process it, but I know one thing. It needs to be told. It was an ordinary day, at least that's what I thought. I had woken up early, made my usual cup of coffee, and gone about my morning routine like I always did. Nothing seemed out of place,
I'm glad you
but
still
something
here.
was different, and I had
I
no
know if it's
idea
by
that
hand
in
or
just a
most
few
high,
hours, my
he
entire
gone.
life would take a turn I could never have imagined. I was driving to work, just like I did every weekday morning. The sky was overcast, and the air felt thick, almost as if the world itself
Yeah,
was
keep
trying
this
to tell
down
me
here
something.
because
But I wasn't paying attention.
I'm gonna have to write
I was in my
things.
head, thinking about bills, work, and all the things that
What
had
are you
been
thinking
stressing
about?
me out lately. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp pain shot through my chest. It was like nothing I had ever felt before. Intense, gripping, and terrifying. I tried to breathe, but the air wasn't coming in. My vision blurred, and suddenly everything around me seemed to slow down. The cars, the buildings, even the people on the sidewalk. It was like the world had gone into slow motion. I don't remember the exact moment I lost control of the car, but I do remember the sound of tires screeching and the sickening impact that followed. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the pavement, staring up at the sky. I could hear voices, sirens in the distance, people shouting, but none of it felt real. As I lay there, something strange happened. The pain started to fade, and I felt an overwhelming sense of calm. It was as if all the worries, the fears, the stress I had been carrying simply melted away. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't even sure if I was alive. That's when I realized I was dying. At first, I didn't know what was happening. One moment, I was lying on the pavement, feeling my body grow weaker, and the next, I was floating above it. I could see everything. The paramedics rushing to my side, a woman.
Okay, let me pause it for a second. I want to touch on it because I want, even though they did say show the video, because Christ told him to go to and fro and warn the people. And that is what you're seeing your brothers and sisters are doing now with this word all around the world, irregardless, because it has a power operating within it itself. All you can do is be a vessel. Don't get in the way. You want the power of the heavens here in you. You're going to supersede anything anybody can create because you're coming from the source. Check it out.
Crying nearby, my own body lifeless on the ground. But I didn't feel any attachment to it. There was no fear, no panic, just an odd sense of detachment, as if I were watching a movie. I tried to speak, to call out to the people below, but no sound came out. It was like I was weightless, drifting further and further away. Then I felt something pulling me, not physically, but spiritually. It was as if an invisible force was guiding me upward. I had no control over it, but I wasn't resisting either. I felt peaceful, more peaceful than I had ever felt in my life. A light appeared in the distance, small at first, then growing brighter and brighter. It wasn't like any light I had seen before. It wasn't harsh or blinding, but warm and inviting. like it was calling me home. I moved toward it effortlessly, as if I were being drawn in. The further I went, the more the world I had known faded away. The sounds of the city, the voices of the people, it all disappeared. All that was left was the light and a sense of overwhelming love that wrapped around me like a blanket. Then, just as I was about to step fully into the light, I heard a voice. It wasn't loud, but it was powerful, resonating deep within my soul. It's not your time yet. The voice
Family,
was
I'm so
familiar,
confused.
but I
I'm
couldn't
around here
place it.
doing
Then
deep knee
everything
bends and
around me
squats.
shifted,
I'm so
and I
confused
found
now.
myself standing in a place I couldn't describe. It wasn't Earth, but it wasn't completely foreign either. It was like a waiting area between two worlds, and that's when I saw him. The moment I stepped into the light, everything around me changed. I was no longer floating, no longer an observer.
Can't be afraid.
I was there, in a place that felt both familiar and unknown at the same time. It was bright, but not in a way that hurt my eyes. The air was thick with warmth, but not the kind that made you sweat. It was comfort itself, a presence so strong and powerful that I could feel it wrapping around me like a soft embrace. Before me, a tunnel stretched far into the distance. It wasn't made of brick or stone, but of pure, glowing light. It pulsed with life, almost like it was breathing. There was no doubt in my mind I was crossing over. As I took a step forward, I noticed something incredible. The tunnel wasn't empty. On either side, shadowy figures stood watching me, their forms shimmering like waves of energy. I couldn't see their faces clearly, but I knew they were souls, people who had crossed over before me. Some felt familiar, like I had known them in another life, while others were complete strangers. They weren't speaking, but I could hear them, not with my ears, but with my spirit. They were welcoming me, comforting me, letting me know I was safe. It was the most beautiful feeling I had ever experienced. I continued forward, drawn deeper into the tunnel. With every step, I felt lighter, as if all the burdens I had carried in my earthly life were falling away. Then, at the end of the tunnel, I saw him. Standing there, at the end of the tunnel, was a figure unlike any I had ever seen before. He radiated light, not just around him, but from him. His presence was overwhelming. Love, peace, power, all wrapped into one. I knew without a doubt that I was standing before Jesus. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. All I could do was feel, and what I felt was beyond words. He looked at me, and in that single gaze, I saw my entire life flash before me. Every moment, every decision, every mistake, every act of kindness, it was all there, laid bare before him. But there was no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. Then he spoke, and his voice was like thunder and a whisper at the same time. "You are not here by accident, Jessica." I wanted to ask him why I was there, what was happening, but before I could, he raised his hand. And suddenly, everything changed. I was no longer standing in the tunnel. I was somewhere else, a place I had never seen before, but somehow felt deeply connected to. And that's when he showed me the truth about black people, a truth that would change the way I saw the world forever. I stood there, frozen in awe, as Jesus extended his hand toward me. His eyes held a depth of knowledge I couldn't comprehend. And in that moment, I knew I was about to see something important, something that had been hidden from the world for far too long. Without a word, everything around me shifted. The tunnel disappeared, and I was standing in a vast, open space. It was neither earth nor heaven. It was something in between, a place where divine truths were revealed. Before me, images began to form, like moving paintings made of pure energy. The first thing I saw was Africa, vast, beautiful, and glowing with a golden light. I saw ancient cities, strong civilizations, and people full of wisdom, resilience, and spiritual power. They weren't broken. They weren't weak. They were chosen. Jesus spoke, and his voice resonated deep within my soul. The world has lied about them, he said. They are not what they have been made to believe. They were given gifts, power, and knowledge that many tried to erase. The vision shifted again. I saw chains, ships, people being taken from their homeland. I saw suffering, pain, and generations being told they were less than what they were. And then I saw something even more shocking. I saw spiritual forces working behind the scenes, intentionally suppressing the truth. Jesus turned to me and continued. The oppression was not just physical, it was spiritual, because if they knew who they truly were, the world would change. My heart pounded. This wasn't just history. This was a spiritual battle that had been going on for centuries. The deception ran deep, and most of the world had no idea. But then the vision changed again. I saw modern times, people waking up, realizing their worth, reclaiming their power. The same people who had been told they were nothing were starting to remember who they truly were. Jesus smiled. The time of revelation has begun. They will rise again. Tears filled my eyes. I had never felt something so profound. The truth was hidden, but not forever. It was coming to light. The visions didn't stop. Jesus raised his hand again, and I was pulled deeper into the revelation. I saw a time long before slavery, before colonization, before oppression. I saw a world where black people held spiritual knowledge that was powerful beyond words. They understood the connection between heaven and earth, between spirit and the physical world. They had divine wisdom that had been passed down from generation to generation. I saw prophets, leaders, and warriors, men and women who had direct communication with God. They didn't need intermediaries. They could speak to heaven themselves. Jesus looked at me, his expression filled with both sorrow and love. This is why they were targeted, he said, because those who rule the world fear those who carry divine wisdom. My mind was racing. It all made sense now. The attempts to strip away their culture, their faith, their identity, it wasn't just about control. It was about taking away their connection to the truth. But as I watched, I saw something incredible. Even through oppression, through generations of being told they were nothing, their spirit was never broken. Their power never left them. They carry something that cannot be destroyed, Jesus continued, and that is why they must remember. At that moment, I understood. It wasn't about hate. It wasn't about division. It was about restoration. The world had been built on lies, but the truth was rising. The vision changed again. This time, I saw a great awakening. People of all nations, but especially black people, standing up, realizing who they were. I saw them breaking free from mental chains, reclaiming their spiritual power. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. The world had tried to erase them, but they were stepping into the truth. And as they did, something miraculous happened. The world itself began to shift. Jesus turned to me once more. The prophecy is unfolding, he said. They will lead the world into a new era of spiritual awakening. I gasped. Was this why I was being shown this? Was I supposed to share this message? Yes, Jesus answered, reading my thoughts. You must tell them. The world is changing. They need to know the truth. I fell to my knees, overwhelmed by what I had just witnessed. It wasn't just about race. It was about identity, purpose, and destiny. This wasn't about one group being superior to another. It was about restoring balance, about unveiling truth that had been hidden for centuries. They were chosen, Jesus said, but so were many others. It is time for all of my children to remember who they are. Suddenly, everything around me started to fade. The light, the visions, even Jesus himself. I felt myself being pulled backward, as if an invisible force was dragging me away from heaven. No, I cried out. I don't want to go back. Jesus smiled, but his eyes held something serious. You must, he said. The world needs you to speak. I wanted to protest, but before I could, I felt a jolt, like being hit with electricity. I gasped for air. My eyes flew open. I was back. The beeping of hospital machines surrounded me. Nurses and doctors rushed to my side. I could feel my heart pounding, my lungs struggling to take in air. I was alive, but I was not the same person who had left. I had seen things that changed me forever. I had spoken to Jesus. I had seen the truth, and I knew my life would never be the same. When I woke up in the hospital, everything felt different. The air felt heavier, the lights too bright, the voices around me too loud. I was alive, but I didn't feel like the same person who had left that day. The doctors and nurses were talking, but their voices sounded distant, like an echo of reality that I could barely grasp. My family was there too, crying, holding my hands, thanking God that I had survived. But I couldn't focus on any of it. My mind was still in that other place, still replaying everything I had seen. I had spoken to Jesus. I had been shown the truth. And now I was back in a world that didn't know. For days, I barely spoke. I could see the worry in my family's eyes, the way they whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. They thought I was in shock, that I was traumatized from the accident. And maybe I was, but not for the reason they thought. I was struggling with something much bigger than myself. How could I tell people what I had seen? Who would believe me? I tried to push it away, to convince myself that it had just been a dream, a hallucination brought on by my near-death experience. But I knew better. It wasn't a dream. It was real. And the longer I stayed silent, the heavier it became. The weight of what I knew, of what I had been shown, pressed down on me like a force I couldn't escape. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself staring out the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. And that's when I heard the voice again, soft but undeniable. Speak. I turned sharply, but no one was there. Yet deep in my soul, I knew what it meant. I couldn't keep this to myself. I had to tell people. But where would I even begin? The first revelation, the message begins to unfold. The first time I tried to talk about my experience, I was met with skepticism. I had gathered my closest friends and family, determined to share what I had seen, what Jesus had shown me about black people and their hidden spiritual power. But the moment I started speaking, I could see the doubt in their eyes. You were in an accident, Jessica, my sister said gently. Maybe your mind was just... No, I interrupted. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination.
Tell them, Jess.
It was real. I went on, telling them everything. The tunnel, meeting Jesus, the revelation about black people and their divine connection. I spoke with passion, with conviction, hoping that something in my words would reach them. But when I finished, there was only silence. Then my best friend cleared her throat and gave me a forced smile. Well, that's interesting, she said hesitantly. I mean, maybe it's symbolic, you know. Maybe your mind was just processing everything that's happening in the world.
Yes.
I felt my heart sink. They didn't believe me, not really. I tried again with others, church members, acquaintances, even strangers online. But time and time again, I was met with the same reactions. Some dismissed it as a hallucination. Others told me to keep it to myself. And some even got angry, saying I was trying to push an agenda. It was frustrating, painful. I had...
No, I understand because I experienced some of the same thing. But once people began to really read and take in what they're reading, the spirit begins to work. Excuse me. There's a spirit that begins to work and it starts to reveal all things. Can't make this up. I believe it.
Been given this message for a reason. yet no one wanted to hear it. Then one night, as I sat alone, questioning whether I should just stop trying, I heard the voice again. Keep speaking. And I knew I couldn't give up.
A lot of our people don't want to hear. They still stuck in what they doing, whatever religion. That's their cause. But they not catching it. And then when they hear it, they, I don't want to hear that. That don't matter no more. We Christians say, whoa, okay. Okay.
The more I spoke, the more resistance I faced.
Yeah.
It wasn't just skepticism anymore. Things started happening that I couldn't explain. My phone would randomly shut off when I was writing about my experience. Videos I recorded about my NDE would mysteriously get deleted. Strange calls from unknown numbers began flooding my phone, with voices on the other end breathing heavily but saying nothing. At first, I brushed it off as paranoia. But then one night, something happened that I couldn't ignore. I had just finished recording a message about my experience, talking about how black people had been spiritually oppressed for centuries, and I was about to upload it when my computer screen flickered. Then the entire video vanished. Just like that. I tried to recover it, but it was gone. So black people should know you have an innate power where you are able to overcome those things. I think those things are just like the fire that Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro went through in Babylon. I liken this experience for us and our ancestors as a modern day Babylon. When I look at all the extremities, this nation, and let's say, the bondage. Everything is bondage. You got to sign for this, you got to sign for that. You got to go to them for this, you got to go to them for that. You can't plant your own garden. It's a problem. But we know how that works. And then you can't do this. You got to get a license for this. You got to get a license. What the hell? Can't we just live? You stifling my growth. What the hell? Get out of my way and I'll show you. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you Caesar, you taxing the land. If you end that structure, expect that. Don't get mad. And when you move with righteousness. In right standing. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. We praying for his kingdom and his righteousness. And that's a level well above what we're experiencing in life. And you have to bring it here. Not in the recycle bin, not saved anywhere, just completely erased. A chill ran down my spine. I looked around my apartment, suddenly feeling like I wasn't alone. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving across my living room wall. I gasped, spinning around, but there was no one there. Keep speaking, the voice whispered again, but this time it felt closer, almost urgent. I knew then that I was facing something bigger than I had realized. This wasn't just about me sharing a story. This was a spiritual battle. And whatever forces had been trying to keep this truth hidden, they weren't happy. I had a choice to make. I could stop. I could let the doubt, the fear, and the resistance silence me. I could pretend this never happened, go back to my normal life, and never speak of it again. Or I could fight. I could keep sharing the message, no matter the cost, no matter who doubted me, no matter what tried to stop me. I thought back to that moment with Jesus, to the way he had looked at me when he told me the truth about black people. He had chosen me to see this for a reason, and if I turned away now, I would be turning away from him. So I made my decision. I started writing, speaking, sharing my experience with anyone who would listen. I didn't care if people laughed. I didn't care if people doubted me. I didn't care if strange things kept happening around me, because I knew the truth, and the truth had to be told. So, if you're reading this right now, it means that despite everything, I've kept going, and I need you to do something for me. Share this message, because this isn't just about me. It's about all of us. That's why I spread. The world is waking up. The truth is being revealed, and it's time for everyone, especially
Whatever you
people,
want to label
to
yourself,
remember who
this is
they
what I'm
truly
speaking
are.
to you. People would tell me,
This
no, that's
is
us,
just
but
the
we're
beginning.
not Hebrew Israelites.
At
Like,
first,
huh?
it
That's
felt
us,
like I was screaming into the
we
void.
not, no.
No matter
You
how
have to go
passionately I
according to
spoke,
what's there.
how deeply I believed in the message Jesus had shown me, people still refused to listen. But then,
The excellence of driving a Buick is matched by the excellence of the dealership experience when you own a Buick.
Get 0.9% APR. Plus, current eligible non-GM owners get $3,000 purchase allowance on this Encore GM.
With Walden Wayfinder, you get more than a bachelor's degree.
Well, people have their own agenda, so I don't see everybody just returning to the
I shared my testimony
unless they
online,
prompted.
just as I had done many times before. But this time, it went viral. I don't know what was different about this particular post. Maybe it was the way I worded it. Maybe it was the growing spiritual unrest in the world. Or maybe, just maybe, it was finally time for the truth to be heard. Within hours, thousands of people were commenting, sharing, and engaging. Some people dismissed it, of course. Some called me crazy, a liar, or worse. But for every skeptic, there were 10 others who felt something stir deep inside them. I don't know why, but your words resonate with me. I've always felt there was something missing in what we were taught. Tell me more. These were the messages I received, messages from people who were starting to wake up. And that's when I realized this wasn't about convincing the whole world at once. It was about planting seeds. Not everyone would believe immediately. Some would never believe at all. But those who were ready, they were listening. The revelation Jesus had shown me was no longer just my burden to carry. Others were feeling it, seeing it, recognizing the truth. And as more people started speaking out, something incredible happened. Connections began forming. Scholars, historians, spiritual leaders, even people who had never believed in God before, all started coming together. The things I had seen in my vision, others had seen pieces of them too. We had all been given fragments of the truth, and now we were putting them together. The more the message spread, the stronger the pushback became. It wasn't just people doubting me anymore. Something darker was fighting against me, against us. I started receiving threats, not just from random online trolls, but from people who seemed to know things about me, things they had no way of knowing. My emails were hacked, my videos were taken down, my posts would disappear without warning. One night, I received an anonymous message. Stop speaking. This is bigger than you understand. Chills ran down my spine. I had read about spiritual warfare before, but now I was living it. The same way black people had been spiritually oppressed for centuries, forces were now working overtime to silence the truth. It wasn't just history. It wasn't just injustice. This was a battle for souls, and it was happening right now. The forces that had enslaved, erased, and manipulated black people's history weren't human. They were spiritual. And now that the truth was coming out, they were fighting back harder than ever.
That's why it's so hard.
One night, I woke up to my apartment filled with the thickest darkness.
I believe that because I believe that Dr. Joy DeGruy, y'all need to check her book out. Check her book out. She is, I'm going to tap in on her video too next. I'll make a video, give a reaction on that because it applies to you. And one thing I want you to get is that it's biblical. So it can cause you to bethink yourself in the word, return to the Messiah. That's how you enter the Father's rest, being like the Messiah, a son. John chapter 1, verse 12. All who receive the word. And that causes a change of heart, change of mind. You're not just going to be saying something. This is something we're going to see. We're going to see it, the fruits of your spirit.
I had ever felt. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was something else. A presence, a force. Then I saw it. A shadow standing at the foot of my bed. It didn't move. It didn't speak,
Speak.
but I could feel its intentions. It wanted me to stop.
Oh,
I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move.
in the
I
mighty
was
name of
paralyzed with fear. And then I remembered Jesus. I forced my lips to move and whispered the only thing I could. In the name of Jesus, leave. Instantly, the shadow vanished. The room felt lighter. The darkness broke. And that's when I understood. This wasn't just about spreading a message. It was about fighting for the souls of millions. After everything I had experienced, meeting Jesus, seeing the truth about black people, and facing spiritual attacks, I thought I had seen it all. But I was wrong. One night, as I was deep in prayer, seeking guidance, something happened. I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't fully awake either. It was as if my spirit had been pulled into another realm, a place where time didn't exist. And in this place, I was shown the future. I saw a great awakening, but I also saw a great war, not just a war between nations, but a spiritual war. The forces that had enslaved minds and spirits for centuries weren't going to give up easily. They were preparing to fight, and their weapons weren't bullets or bombs. They were lies, deception, and control. I saw people waking up to their power, stepping into their divine identity, and breaking free from generations of manipulation. I saw black people, once broken and silenced, rising with an authority that shook the earth. They were reclaiming their knowledge, their spiritual gifts, and their connection to God. But I also saw the enemy striking back. Media, governments, and even some religious leaders would do everything in their power to keep the truth from spreading. They would create distractions, stir up division, and use fear to keep people in spiritual chains. Then I saw something that made my heart stop. A wave of destruction, unlike anything the world had ever seen. Floods, fires, and earthquakes in places that had never experienced them before. I saw cities falling, people running, the world crying out for help. I turned to Jesus, who was standing beside me, and asked, "Why is this happening?" He looked at me, his face filled with both sorrow and strength. The world must be shaken before it can be restored.
Hello,
Then he showed
Moto.
me something else. After the chaos, after the suffering, after the destruction,
Hello.
a new world began to emerge.
Hey, how you doing?
A world where people were no longer enslaved by lies. A world where the truth about who they were could no longer be hidden. The final battle has begun, Jesus said, but victory belongs to those who walk in truth. Then just like that, I was back in my room, gasping for air. My body was trembling, and my heart was racing. I had seen what was coming, and now I had no choice but to prepare. The weight of what I had seen was too much to ignore. The world was heading toward a spiritual war, and most people had no idea. They were still caught up in distractions, arguing about politics, chasing money, living in fear, while the real battle was happening in the unseen. I started speaking louder. I told people what I had seen, what Jesus had shown me. Some listened, many didn't. I realized something heartbreaking. Some people don't want to wake up. They are too comfortable in the lies, too afraid of what the truth will cost them. But whether they believe it or not, the time is coming. The awakening is happening, and every person will have to make a choice. Will you fight for the truth, or will you remain in the dark? Jesus warned me that not everyone will survive what's coming. Some will be consumed by fear. Some will give in to the lies. But those who stand in faith, those who embrace their divine power, they will rise like warriors. I don't know why Jesus chose me to deliver this message, but I know I can't stop now. The forces trying to silence me are growing stronger, but so is my faith. If you're reading this, know this isn't a coincidence. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to wake up. And now the choice is in your hands. I don't know how many more times I will be able to speak out before something tries to stop me. But before I go, I need you to understand this. This isn't just my story. This is yours. The truth is coming to the surface, whether the world is ready or not. The spiritual battle is already happening, and you have a role to play. Maybe you've felt it. The feeling that something in the world is off, that you were made for something more. That's because you were. You are part of this awakening, but awakening isn't easy. It requires courage. It requires faith. It requires you to step out of fear and into your divine power. Jesus didn't show me these things so I could keep them to myself. He showed me so I could tell you. And now I am asking you, will you accept the truth? Or will you turn away and pretend you never saw this? The world will try to distract you. The enemy will try to make you doubt. But deep down, your soul already knows the truth. This is your moment. Step into your power. Wake up. And when you do, help others wake up too. Because once the veil is lifted, there's
Sure
no
will.
going back.
I don't care
The
what
time
they
is
talking
now.
about.
Choose wisely.
Now, here's what I think about it. I say pray and take it to the Most High. But what I'm hearing reverberating around the world, there is a trumpet being blown. And the sons of Jacob is, I died and saw shocking facts about black people in the Bible. They won't tell you. Jesus shocking, near death experience. That's another one. I died and Jesus revealed about Trump and US dollar real power in the world. Jesus, near death experience, shocking testimony. As far as us being his people, that's a fact. That's why nothing seems to work for us, family. Yeah, it worked for some, but we don't control it. So it's not ours. And that means we can't, our children won't inherit a system that's not yours that you work for unless you build within the land. And right now, our people are doing that everywhere. So it's a new world. You see why? It's like Homeboy trying everything in his power, like he trying Homeboy doing everything in his power to downsize and bring in for what reason? But at the same time, you got the sons of Jacob. These people are guided by a whole different culture than what you see, and it shows we different. We should that being different don't mean that puts you in a state where you just rule over everybody and everybody gonna do what you say and this and that. No, everybody gonna hear the word and align our hearts and minds with the word. Everything on the earth that's breathing is gonna bow down to the power of the God of Jacob. I don't care who it is or what they are, what religion they talking about. And the times are showing. It's written. That's enough in itself. And then you got Gentile nations having dreams, which I've heard before, and I see it all on TikTok. I'll be like, woo, man. See what that Micah talking about. Micah 5:5. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. Ye have laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with the rod upon the cheek. But thou, Bethlehem, Ephratah, though thou be little among thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from old, from everlasting. Therefore will he give them up until the time that which give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. And he shall stand and feed in the strength of Yahuwah, in the majesty of the name of Yahuwah, the Elohim. and shall abide. Now, for now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrians shall come into our land. That's talking about Yahushua. Yes. Micah 3. Let's go into Micah 3. Mm-hmm. Micah 4. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahuwah shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Right now, we understand what mountains mean. Let's see what it means in the Hebrew. H20:22. Har, that's how it's pronounced. A shortened form of a mountain or range of hills, sometimes used figuratively. Hill, country, mount. So let's say countries, because the Most High wants to make these kingdoms colonies of heaven. Verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth from Zion, and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. Verse 3. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. That's when Israel and Judah is in the land. They over there cutting up, so you know it ain't talking about them. This is a future prophecy. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, have spoken it. For all people will walk, everyone in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of Yahuwah, our Elohim, forever and ever. Verse 6. In that day, said Yahuwah, will I assemble her that halted, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. He's talking about Israel and Judah. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation, Israel and Judah. Judah was cast off into the four corners of the earth, a strong nation, and Yahuwah shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. Hmm. Hmm. Man, y'all got to read that Micah. That book of Micah is speaking to you. All right, family, peace and blessings. It's been 40 minutes. Yeah, I got to hit the studio, go and create. I need to create some Hebrew Israelite prints. I put a couple of verses on there. I want to put some faces on there, our faces on there. I'm gonna wait till I get these prints. I got some good product coming through. Real hot product. And it's a good technique that's been around for a long time. I'm gonna see how it take to the cotton once I get it. You'll see. I ain't talked about it enough. I ain't gonna get no more on it, but I got some heat coming. Ibrahim Traore wants to step down.
The black Israelites are under attack by dark forces.
Oh yeah.
For centuries, the world has dismissed the supernatural,
Oh
preferring
yeah.
to view
It's
history
everywhere,
through the lens
fam.
of politics, war, and economy. But what if history itself has been shaped by forces beyond human control? Iranian scholars have now come forward with a harrowing warning. Dark, unseen entities have waged war against the black Israelites, the true descendants of the biblical people of God. This battle is not merely about land, power, or heritage. It is a spiritual war, one that has been foretold in ancient versions.
This is shown there large. South Africa retaliates. South Africa suspends all USA businesses in its borders.
To my channel. I have some great news for you, my friend.
Africa, get ready. Trump shock in all
Has
strategy.
officially retaliated.
Okay, South Africa, we'll see. Stay strong, brothers. Keep your heads up.
Hello everyone. Today's story is sent by our viewer Miller. My name is Miller.
Okay, you on the wrong track. You gotta come out of there. I'm like, man, that's a sudden rush of all them Egypt targeted by Israel. Shock plan attack on Egypt backfires badly on Israel. Well, Israel ain't finna stand for no shit like that. I mean, Egypt. What? Egypt is a sovereign nation. These people don't snap.
Israel looks to take out two broken bones, stone, so to speak, as its ongoing and growing issue for Egypt, particularly have grown stopped in the last few days.
Fair use copyright. Fair use copyright. Shock plan attack on Egypt backfires badly on Israel. You're doing too much.
Trucks full of aid that Israel refuses to allow into Gaza, queuing up on the Egyptian side as well, shaming Israel internationally. This footage of that gets out, but once more going backwards word. Shelters and heavy machinery to shift rubble barred from entry. And of course, Egypt are apparently the Arab nation with the plan to rebuild Gaza, soon to be put before other Arab nations at a summit in Riyadh. Completely counter to the so-called Trump plan to ethnically cleanse everyone from the Gaza Strip so he can build his Gaza Largo and turn the Gaza Strip into hotels and casinos. Get another crackpot land seizure scheme for the
Hey, them Arabs ain't playing with them people. Them they brothers, though. Them they brothers. I don't understand that. But I understand. Yeah, because they brothers, family. A lot of them related. They are part of Japhet. Japhet warring with Japhet. So what that mean? The times of Japhet has ended. You saying military action like that, well, it's going to intensify more and more and more. It's already intensified. Trump trying to stop it, and he talking about some Gaza plan. You see the Arabs' response? Hell no, get out of here. They on their way in to rebuild. Or these people playing games. Man, they playing a heck of a game out here. I know the prince over there like, what the hell? Trump.
Well,
and Trump's something else, man. Trump's something else. Coop and Jordan, Trump's. What?
Right, so we're tackling a story here that frankly is as shocking as it is
Trump
alarming.
Gaza planning the air invasion of Israel.
Floating the idea of threatening Egypt's Aswan Dam as a way to push back against Egypt's plans
I've seen him
to build the
before.
Gaza Strip. And it all plays in ever so conveniently towards that plan for a greater Israel. Here is that image again of greater Israel. And you can see a good chunk of Egypt is included in these plans. This will be one of the biggest potential acts of war in modern history against one of the most critical pieces of infrastructure in the entire region, all to further Israel's goal of ethnically cleansing Gaza at that. According to reports, an Israeli military analysis website has speculated about destroying the Aswan Dam, which could kill up to 10.5 million Egyptians and devastate the country. So as you can imagine, Egypt are ruddy furious this plan has arisen. Squawk Box have done a brilliant piece on this today entitled Israeli Military Analysis Website Floats Plan to Destroy Aswan Dam, Kill Up to 10.5 million Egyptians. Please do go and read the entire thing. It's a belter. Here's a short excerpt. The plan, first floated on the Israeli Nziv military analysis website, maps out the predicted chain of events if Israel destroys Egypt's Aswan Dam, which holds back around 132 cubic kilometers of water at the head of the Nile River, with devastating consequences within hours, including millions of cubic meters of water breaching the dam and starting within minutes to cascade downriver. A wall of water flooding the Luxor and Aswan areas, devastating infrastructure. Flooding of military bases and industrial facilities along the Nile. Many thousands of people killed just in the first few hours, mainly in rural areas. A state of emergency for 20 million people in Cairo as the wall of water approaches. Collapse of power supplies and transportation and communication systems. Mobilization of the Egyptian military to evacuate or try to rescue civilians. Collapsed Cairo's industrial zones are completely shut down. Office towers and old buildings are collapsing. The Egyptian state losing control of large urban areas. Mass movement of refugees fleeing to high ground, but many people drowning. Deaths of at least 1.7 million people and as many as 10.5 million. Egyptian commentators reacted with outrage, with one politician vowing that Egypt's army would overtake Israeli business capital Tel Aviv in one day if Israel attacked it. Egyptian writer and researcher Saad al-Fiki told Russia Today that the report is a display of recklessness whose consequences Israel does not realize, and that the cartoonish statements are a sign of Israel's dysfunction and its leaders trying to save their reputation, which is stained with the blood of innocents in Palestine. Egyptian media described the plan as an unprecedented and serious escalation. The Aswan Dam is one of Egypt's most vital infrastructures. Built between 1960 and 1970, it controls the Nile River, provides electricity to millions, and supports agriculture across the country. But now it's being threatened as part of Israel's apparent desperation to continue to escalate tensions further and further throughout the Middle East, for no better reason than to keep Netanyahu's backside firmly glued to the chair reserved for Prime Minister of Israel. This isn't just a theoretical exercise either. This is a thought-through and developed military plan placed on a military website. This is something Israel had planned out previously. You don't come up with ideas like this overnight. It's a thinly veiled threat that has now been made public, aimed at Egypt, which has been particularly vocal recently in plans it has to rebuild Gaza after what Israel has done to the place. That there are war crimes and there is threatening to destroy a dam that sustains an entire nation. The threat of targeting a water source is an unequivocal war crime under international law, and it raises serious questions again about Israel's tactics and intentions in the Middle East, not to mention those who still insist on providing political cover and military aid to this ever more genocidal rogue state. Egypt, for one, are not taking this lightly, as you can imagine, but nor are they backing down from their plans to see Gaza rebuilt for the people of Gaza and not for the benefit of Donald Trump. Egypt is now a key player in efforts to rebuild the Strip after Israel's brutal war, which has left over 60,000 Palestinians dead on the official numbers, much higher than that on projections, and much of the territory in complete ruins, with a plan set to be presented by Egypt at a summit in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia playing host to it at the end of this month. However, Israel's goals in Gaza are starkly different, and this blatant threat to Israel, already when their plans have not actually yet been made public, really does say a lot about how determined Israel now is to see Trump's vision delivered. And that is in no small part down to how much the far right of Netanyahu's coalition government are in love with the idea of Trump ethnically cleansing Gaza for their benefit. Egypt's rebuilding efforts involves the people of Gaza remaining in the Strip, directly contradicting that plan. And Israel seems willing, it seems now, to go to extreme lengths already to stop them. This isn't just about infrastructure or politics, it's about the survival of the Palestinian people in light of what Israel has done to them. For Gaza, rebuilding means hope. For Israel, it's an obstacle to their expansionist goals, be that the Greater Israel ideology or just wiping out what is left of the state of Palestine from the map. Netanyahu already having done this in many maps he's publicly shown, of course. For Egypt, all of a sudden this has become about more than just coming to the aid of their neighbor and holding Israel to account. It's a matter of regional stability now and sovereignty for them. And now Israel has just threatened them in the most obscene manner. Actually, where is Donald Trump in all of this? Is the US just Israel's mate or Egypt's too? The US is still supplying foreign aid to both of these nations, after all. The only two nations Trump has continued it in. Gaza is one thing, but now Israel is threatening Egypt for their agenda. So you're going to pick Israel's side here too. This isn't an isolated incident anymore. Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria. Yes,
Men, congratulations. This offer is specially for
of aggression by Israel that includes illegal settlements, forced displacements, and systematic violence against the people of Palestine and beyond that. The threat to the Aswan Dam is just the latest example of Israel's willingness to use.
Y'all get the picture. They whacking each other. It ain't not a fight. Anyway, peace and blessings, family.